they're the folks that are paying the cost of doing this extensive analysis study, etc. To date, we've spent almost $1.5 million. So we're fortunate we have property owners that have the capability of financing this. The project itself, and I've got about 15, 18 slides I'm going to try to go through fairly quickly, is it's 350 acres. It's a mixed-use project of both office, retail, residential, highway commercial, parks, parkways, bike lanes, etc. What you're looking at here is an aerial rendering of a portion of the project. This is not all the project, and you can see, can you see my cursor? Okay. That is an empty field. Those are just, every time we put a house on there, it costs us $10 or $15 by the landscape architect who was designing this. The point is that's residential up there. Let's take a look. I would, before I get to the next slide, point out, people ask this all the time. This project, which is again 2.2 million square feet of office and 1,600 residential units, some support retail and some highway commercial. We believe over the next 20 to 25 years could, and I think will, generate between roughly 4,000 and 5,000 jobs. It'll depend on the type of jobs that come in. Although we expect it to be office, research, tech park primarily, but we also see what we're calling advanced manufacturing technology, IT technology, which could be things such as agricultural robotics, and any number of other things. Many of matters which are, or types of companies that already exist in and around Woodland and in and around the UC Davis area. What I'd like to do is give you a little background on the project, orient you to the project, and briefly discuss the features, key features, and then I'll try to make time, or I will make time for questions at the end. This is a quick, couple quick maps. If you look at the one on the right, you can see the red area. That's the project area down there. I think most people probably know where this is, and immediately to the east and to the north is Spring Lake Specific Plan. Site to the left is just looking at this area a little more specific. You can see our property or project actually goes south of 25A. We have some highway commercial here. It's not a lot, but it'll be enough to potentially support a hotel as well as some highway-related services. Next, this is not a good picture, I apologize, but this is the land plan that's been promoted. It's in the specific plan text, and I'll get into all that in a second. But you can see generally the purple is the office, the various shades of I'll call it light yellow, orange, etc. are the residential. The green is the 11-acre Central Park that we tentatively called the yard. And then if you go here to the whatever color that is, because I'm basically colorblind, but I would say kind of a purplish, that's the village center. This will be probably the hub of this area. And again, what you'll see in this area is the higher density residential, and the outer areas will be the lower density, and the densities will be in this LDR, lower density residential, very, very similar to what you're seeing in Spring Lake. So there's a nice buffer, a nice transition. As you go to the west, you'll see the office park. This is a slide or a shot of something we've used for about the last year and a half, just to explain to people, why you would put a project in Woodland. And it's pretty simple. I mean, probably the biggest two reasons are, one, it's close to UC Davis, probably one of the most recognized, if not most respected research universities dealing with agricultural research technologies, et cetera, related to ag tech. I'll use the word ag tech. a sort of a catch-all for what we see being the primary focus of this office park, this research park, but this park will be open to any kinds of office. And we've had several large professional service firms, engineering firms, planning firms that have expressed interest, and people like that, companies like that are certainly welcome. The second reason is because Woodland is, literally the agricultural hub of Northern California, and one of the breadbaskets, if you will, of the world with respect to agriculture. Significantly also, those we're very close to an international airport, and many of these companies that we're talking to, many of whom are already located in the Woodland Davis area, are based other places, the Netherlands, Germany, South Africa, Korea. We've had conversations with people beyond that. Again, you all know Napa's not too far away. San Francisco and the Bay Area is not too far away, and particularly for people out of town, or out of state, out of country, that's where they can kind of orient this project. Another thing that's sort of happened in the last, let's say the last year or so, is partly because of COVID and partly because the trend was already there. You're seeing people moving from the Bay Area, more affordable, in many cases, more pleasant environment. And the fact is, they can work at home. And if they need to go into San Francisco or wherever, Silicon Valley, they can go down there once or twice a week, and it's not that big a deal. Whereas you're not going to typically be commuting from Sacramento to San Francisco all the time, although people do it. Again, moving on. The city of Woodland, forgive me. The city of Woodland has had this area that I just mentioned, the research park area, identified in the general plan, in their general plan for the last almost 20 years. They did an update, and the city did an update, updating the general plan about 3.5, 4 years ago, 2017. That was after 3 or 4 years of vigorous conversations, public meetings, and they confirmed the fact that this area is the 350 acres that they want to see as a mixed-use community anchored by a research park. The text that you see there, the general plan policy 2L2, comes straight from the general plan that was recently adopted. And again, what we're doing is bringing in a plan that is basically the plan that was included in the general plan. So this is not something that's new. It's something that's been discussed for a long time. Again, elements being business park, high density with low density or lower density residential on the edges, encouraging sustainable development, using renewable energy sources, emphasizing water conservation, and trying to meet the goal of zero net energy when feasible. And I think that my experience in some of these areas is that I think that's very possible within the 2030 or close thereafter time frame. The city, after adopting the general plan, allowed our group, working with the city, and I would say this is not our group's plan, this is the city's plan that we've worked with the city extensively. A specific plan was required. That specific plan, which is now out for public review, was released a couple months ago. You can find it on the city's website. It's a lengthy document, but I think for those interested, particularly the first couple of chapters, are worthwhile if you're truly interested in getting into more detail. Again, specific plan is it's a master plan that addresses any number of principles. It lays out the land plan, it lays out the infrastructure. One of the reasons it took so long to get this project going is because of the significant amount of technical studies, infrastructure studies, water, sewer, drainage, utilities, traffic, financing plan, etc. And we're pretty much at the end of all those. We're still working on the financing plan, but you got to know what you build before you decide, how you build it and how you phase it. This is the guiding principles that were are presented in the specific plan. And again, I would ask you to take a look at this. This comes directly out of the specific plan. And again, innovation, that's certainly the goal. You can see by our initial design, our conceptual design, that we're talking about a campus, aimed at, among other things, technology, ag technology. We want to work with and have outreach to the university, Davis. Have had meetings, we'll continue to have meetings with the community college and high school, school districts, the potential for jobs, internships, etc. Working with the various businesses, presenting to the Woodland Technology Alliance next week. Again, sustainability. You can go through the rest of them. A gathering place. We'll talk a little about the village center and how we expect to see that get activated with the farmers market and places for people to hang out. This 11-acre linear park, as I call it, is going to be very, very cool, I believe, and we'll see, again, I think a very nice integrated project. And this will be a master plan community. So we'll know, generally speaking, the uses. We'll know how we're trying to do transitions that make sense, not putting single family right next to high density office, but doing a nice transition. So anyway, that's the guiding principles. The two portions of this project that are the biggest are the tech park space itself, the office, the research park, the lab space. Again, these aren't particularly great photos here, but just, we'll be looking for office buildings, most probably the first project or buildings out of the ground will be office buildings. They may contain wet labs, which is something we've heard a lot from many companies. We are aiming for a campus-like setting. We're aiming for opportunities for collaboration. People have asked, do you've had interest? Yeah, we've had quite a bit of interest, although I have personally told people, I got to have a plan done. People hear me say this often. We got to have it there before I can really talk seriously with users, but there's been a significant amount of interest. Here's just one of the more modern inside buildings, open space. I will say with COVID, people are scratching their heads exactly in terms of what the design of office space will be. Will there be a demand for office space? Yes, there will be a demand for office space. COVID will impact it. Exactly how it will impact it, we don't know. But the newer buildings are where people are going to want to go, and we'll have a newer building. The types of, the types of users, again, this is just possible users, potential. I mean, we came up with a list that was 4 pages long in terms of companies that are in this area already or have expressed interest. And I think you all know that right now we're the only game in town. Davis, the city of Davis, in its infinite wisdom, declined to approve sort of a similar project in Davis. Again, the other significant portion of this project is the residential. And the residential, is a combination of different types of homes. You can see some here. These are just samples. There's no designs. No designs that have been done already. I have had conversations with some major residential groups who are contacting me or contacting us, not yet marketing any of this stuff. And so there's interest out there. It's also a very strong residential market. And the residential portion of this project will need to be built concurrently with the office space. So I will tell you that the most likely first part of our project will be 1 or 2 office buildings that we're analyzing right now. We have a commercial office developer, and we're talking with them, so we're optimistic. This is an example of one of the slightly more dense products that we see. We've got 3 types of housing, generally speaking, in this project. Low density, which would be roughly 6 units per acre, which is kind of traditional, I'll call it suburban housing. This is the project. This product, which is I'm not showing you here, is what you see in Spring Lake and some of the other newer subdivisions in Woodland. Then there will be a medium density, which is still single family detached, i.e. not condos, single family detached. And this is this is an example. This is actually a project that's not too far from where I live in Midtown Sacramento, called Metro Square. Extremely successful project. Believe it or not, this project is 23 years old. I took that picture about 4 weeks ago. Gives you an idea of the higher density, not high density, but higher density homes with smaller lots. These homes are 13 to 1,700 square foot. They all have 1 and 2 car garages. They all have little backyards. And they are less expensive, not cheap, but less expensive than your traditional single family home. And then the last type of residential is the apartments. And we see the apartments coming in when we start seeing a significant number of employees. Many of these employees will be at this, working at this project most often will be the younger employees, don't necessarily want to buy a house or can't afford it, but want to live close to where they work. I think, but many of them will want to live, I think, closer to downtown Woodland, because that's a fun place. And I will tell you that one of the things that attracted me to this project, other than Mayor Tom Stallers' incessant lobbying me to take a look at this, and Tom and I have known each other about 45 years, although he's way older than I am. But the point being is that there is interest out there, and we'll, we're going to follow that interest up. Now, I wanted to kind of give you, again, sort of explain, a little more about this project in terms of how it lays out. And I'll do this briefly, and again, I'm going to apologize. I thought I had the high resolution graphic when I finished this thing last night, but I don't. Again, purple, Research Office Park, advanced manufacturing. Again, we're talking advanced manufacturing. That could be Apple building new Apple products, rehabbing existing products. There's always research and development that goes along with that. So I think we'll see some of, we'll call it manufacturing. Will not be heavy manufacturing, will not be tradition. There will be no traditional industrial industrial buildings. There will be no distribution centers that require any significant amount, that would require any significant amount of traffic. Again, about 130 acres of that, of the research park office space. The yellow and the orange and various shades of yellow and orange is the residential portion. Again, it starts here and then kind of wraps around here. So all of this is in one form or another residential. The lighter the color, the lower the density. We have in the middle here, the village center. Again, I've mentioned that before. We have the park, and then down here we have the highway commercial. Again, gone through this a couple times, but people seem to want to know where things are. Next slide is I'm going to just kind of more precisely show you where these projects are. Again, 2.2 million square feet of office, 4,000 to 5,000 jobs potentially. It will take a long time. And highway commercial. One of the things we have planned, and we have the ability to do more than one, is a hotel. I personally think we'll see a highway commercial, a nice highway commercial hotel that'll be up against the 11325A interchange there. But we have also planned for the potential for a larger hotel, not a huge hotel, but a larger hotel that would include a conference center. As this project builds with the offices, office space and everything else, there will be the need for a conference center. There will be a need for people who are coming from, whether it's the East Coast, whether it's from Southern California, whether it's from overseas, a place to stay, and more importantly, a place to meet with other people who are working in or near this area. Again, that won't happen for a while because it's like you got to have the number of potential users. Just like, let's see, moving right along here. You'll have, again, this is the single family and some of the multi-family sites. Again, we have names for these, but again, your North Village is going to be almost all single family. East Village, primarily single family, well, almost all single family, some low density, some medium density. And we have the flexibility. This is not arbitrary, but this is generally how this thing will be laid out. This gives you sort of the center, which we're calling the village center. The mixed use here is, going to be probably, there's not going to be a Rayleigh's or as much as people would want at a Trader Joe's, just because there's just not the potential customers. But you will see, I don't know, I predict the first thing will be a coffee shop like everywhere in the world. It will be something where people will want to hang out, particularly when there's only a couple, 3 offices there. We have the potential for some mixed use, something like what we see here in Midtown, maybe 3 or 4 story building that has retail on the bottom with residential on top. That's popular. Whether it can be supported here, we'll just have to see. I mean, I think it will happen eventually. The next slide here, it gives you sort of a quick view of all of the different types of bikeways, parkways, pedestrian ways that link both internally the entire project, but also link over to Spring Lake here to the east, and eventually parkland, which will be extended over Highway 113, excuse me, into, among other things, a community park and community center here on the west side of 113. That will be a bike and pedestrian only, no cars overpass. But you can see we've got, I believe it's 8 or 9 miles of bike lanes itself, and the bike lanes are at a minimum length, striped, and in several cases they're actually separate paths. What I'm particularly excited about, and I think the community should be, is this 11-acre park. We've got a couple of visuals here of how this thing could look. We are expecting that it would be very bike and pedestrian friendly, and that the park itself will have the ability to do community events, including a farmers market. Most probably this would be the farmers market would be in this area because this is the central part of the village center. We're not expecting to see organized, at least many organized sports events there, although it's potentially, we see this as something where families and individuals can go out and hang out. There is a bike path you can see, walkway that goes through the middle of the project. For those of you who have any familiarity with Curtis Park in downtown or the urban core well, actually Curtis Park is in the Curtis Park area. It's coincidentally almost exactly the same size and configuration, and it's just a beautiful park. You know, it's got some basketball courts. It's got lots of you know, places to picnic and hang out and just you know, enjoy yourself and not have to worry about a baseball, you know, coming into your area. But again, it'll be programmed as we go forward. The other thing I would point out is this is going to have the ability to potentially have some kind of iconic building similar to the barn in West Sacramento. Again, that's looking future. Simply stated, this project will be very sustainable. You know, it'll meet the highest highest green standards that are currently out there, and they'll obviously comply with all of the general plan provisions and would be consistent with the climate action plan. Very quickly also, this is the rough schedule. The draft DIR is, excuse me, the draft specific plan was made available a couple months ago. The draft DIR has been delayed a little, but so we're probably a month, maybe a little more than a month behind. You know, right now, and you know, you're actually my first presentation is the community outreach that we're doing, and we'll be doing extensively the next couple months. If you have an organization that would like us to present or just answer questions, just reach out to us or reach out to the city. Sometime later, the first quarter of this year, we'll have the beginning of the public hearings, including a review of the draft DIR. After the draft DIR comment period closes, and that's usually a 45-day period. You know, the EIR, you know, the comments get responded to, and we then go to the Planning Commission and the City Council. And right now, I think I tell people, as of today, we believe will be approved by the end of the second quarter, so 4 or 5 months from now. If you have any questions, first of all, you can contact me. You know, Christy, among others, know how to get a hold of me, although it doesn't just look me up in Google. That's my email address. Erica Baumgarter and Ken Hyatt at the city are the contacts who know as much about this project as we do. And we have a website there, and the city also has a website, so if you have questions there. Anyway, that's my presentation. I tried to keep it brief, and I'll be happy to answer questions.
John, it's Jim Gillette. I was,
Hi.
Hi, welcome back. I haven't seen you in a while, and glad to see that this thing's still moving forward, because it's been something you've been working on for quite a while, and the chamber's been involved in. But one of the things that I know we had some discussions previously about the balance between commercial and residential and the timing and things like that. And so there was this discussion about phasing to where that balance would be maintained throughout the development. Can you just touch base a little bit on what that means and how that's going to be addressed over time?
Well, I would say simply stated, well, I mean, in the ideal world, we get some office up and shortly thereafter we get some residential up. I mean, we've spent a lot of time and are continuing to spend a lot of time on phasing. We know how much infrastructure we need, you know, for the first X number of units, which would probably both office and residential. And if we hit our numbers, we would probably, that would take us 3 or 4 years to burn through that. Like everything, Jim, it's a question of the market. We believe the market is good for office and it's particularly good for residential. We know we can't start this project with residential. We need to start with office. And that's what we're focused on right now. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to go in up front. It's very expensive. And residential, if there's interest there, we probably run them concurrent. I think it's going to be, both of them going up at some time. How quickly, we don't know. We've got a 20, 25 year, phasing of this, to allow some planning and, understand when you need certain improvements put in, interchanges, et cetera. So I don't know if I can answer it much more precise than that. It's
not for 25 years.
Pardon me?
Not for the 25 years it's going to take to build it. Absolutely. No,
yeah.
I just wanted to make sure because I know we've had a number of discussions about this and I wasn't sure how many other people were aware of the efforts that you guys are putting in to make sure that balance is maintained as much as possible throughout the project.
People have asked me this is a research park with residential supporting it. It's not a residential park that's using the office park or a residential project using the office park as a stalking horse. I have no interest necessarily in coming to Woodland and doing a plain vanilla residential project. On top of that, the city wouldn't let us and shouldn't let us.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good to know. Is there any other questions for John?
Yeah, I have a question, Jim. This is Caesar.
Speak up.
Jim?
Go ahead.
Yeah, John, this is Mark Ulrich, President Chamber. Sorry I was late, ran into technical difficulties out here in the country. So
no problem.
Great presentation, great project. Can you explain a little bit about the possibilities for business ownership of the property? Are you leasing it all to them or a combination of both? Condos?
We are flexible. We are flexible. I mean, if somebody wants to come in and build a building, I mean, you couldn't come in and build a 5,000 square foot building just because, but we think what will happen is that, we'll find tenants that don't necessarily want to buy, but if they want to buy, that's fine. And some of the big boys and girls in this business, I use the word Google, and I will tell you, Google is not, we haven't talked to it, but I mean, somebody like that, some of those folks like to own their property, others have no interest in owning property. So we are flexible. There's no set approach on how we do this. But, like I said, we got 130 acres of office, and so, we can talk about any number of things.
Hey, I have a question. Can you guys hear me? This is Caesar.
I can.
Hello, Caesar.
Hey, thank you for your time, John. It was a great
Sure.
presentation. I do have one question, and it kind of ties in with the last question. Is I know with COVID currently, a lot of big companies, like you mentioned, Google, Apple, and even the larger ones, have shifted their workforce to work from home, and they're getting to where they've actually seen more improvement in their production from people working from home. So is that of any concern to this project and in the future for, maybe getting bigger companies to come into Woodland?
Well, any change in the market, you have your eye on, and COVID is obviously unprecedented. I participate, or not so much participate, I've followed a number of national webinars. I mean, there is an advantage to COVID. It's these kinds of programs are pretty easy to do, and you can talk. So learn things from people that you would otherwise never hear. The jury is out in terms of the impact, but the fact of the matter is most people will come back, and again, that's what the experts say. The real estate experts, the ones that are putting their money where they what they're doing. Yeah, I think offices, it's going to have some impact, but you can't build things at home. You know, you can't collaborate with very smart people, much less average people, you know, and get the brainstorming and the creativity together. So we have, I mean, I can't answer that right now. I'm not overly concerned that, you know, all of a sudden nobody's going to come, because based on the interest that we continue to receive, we don't see that that's changed at all. I mean, the mere fact that we're getting close to approvals obviously elevates our visibility. You know, I think if anything, people are going to move from the Bay Area, in other words, to places where they can have bigger houses, you know, and nicer homes, and the ability potentially to live. But, you know, whether it's a 5% or a 15% reduction in office short-term or long-term, we just don't know. It's not slowing us down at all, and it doesn't change our game plan. Like I say, it's a 20-25 year window, and we think we're going to see office going up fairly quickly after we get all our improvements or all our approvals, and then get our first phase of improvements in.
Thank you, John. Appreciate your presentation. Anybody else has questions, you can contact John directly, or send your questions to the website that they've got. So want to thank you very much. Appreciate your time. This is the second or third presentation we've received from you over the years, and it's good to be caught up. There's good changes in there that I see. So thank you again. We have one more topic to go over in our meeting today, and I didn't want to keep folks too late, but that's regarding the safe reopening of the Yolo County restaurants. We had some good news yesterday that we're in a purple tier, I guess. I don't know exactly what that means for the restaurants, so I'm going to let the restaurateurs and those folks that were on a call earlier this week or at the end of last week kind of start out this discussion, so we can see what the chamber can do to help as a connection between government and the restaurant industry. So Juan, do you want to talk on this subject? I know you're very much into it and can maybe move things along. Cynthia might have something as well. Can you hear me, Juan?
He's muted.
Yeah, you need to unmute, Juan, if you can hear me.
I think it's the administrator might have to unmute.
Oh, you're unmuted now. You're fine. You're good. Oh, now you're muted again. Don't we love Zoom?
Yeah.
Cynthia, if you're on the line, do you want to unmute and kind of give an overview?
Yeah, hopefully I unmuted him.
You're unmuted. Thank you.
There we go. He is unmuted now.
Go ahead, Juan.
Go on.
Okay, there you go. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can't see anymore, but
Sorry.
we can hear.
Yeah, sorry. I think my video went out here for a minute, so I'm trying to just regain that back. I don't know if we have administrator control here. Maybe Cynthia, if you're able to probably do video or something in there. Here, let me try to do that here really quick. Maybe get us back in here. But yes, so pretty much the context that the conversation that was left on our previous meeting. I know there was a recap sent out. Let's see. Okay, so I'm being asked by Cynthia to turn on video here. I'm pressing all the right buttons. I'm trying to get a picture in here. So again, I think. Okay, so let's see. Hey, Cynthia, I don't know if you can see a picture, but I don't think it's necessary to have the picture. Okay, just to have me back on video there, or there we go. Okay, so thank you very much again for having us and being able to listen to our ask, and we're, the feeling regarding the restaurants and a safe reopening of the restaurants in Yolo County. It's we've stated some of the points, and I know not to rehash the previous conversation, but overall, what we have seen throughout Yolo County has been a decrease in sales of over 70 to 80, and some of the restaurants over 90%, and a decrease in sales due to the pandemic. And, it is to be expected when individuals are sheltering at home. There's also been some programs through the county in which have been able to have some meal delivery programs. We've actually kickstarted some programs, and we've been able to serve our community for those individuals that have underlying health conditions, individuals that are sheltering in place. And we've turned into our restaurants pretty much into a to-go model, rather than having those individuals into our spaces. So we've had to build several structures. We have to put several hats on as restaurateurs. We have to pretty much drop the knives and leave our restaurants, and then go outside and become pretty much get into the construction business and put on different hats in order for us to be able to survive. What we do not want, and our ask is on a safe reopening of Yolo, is we do not want to see Yolo County, we do not want to see Woodland, we do not want to see our individual cities and our downtowns become boarded up with spaces that are going to be vacant, that are not going to be able to get any taxes back into the general fund. Because when we ask for something from our individual counties or our cities, we want to make sure that we're able to put our effort, and that we have done everything that we can in order for us to be to have a sustainable city, to have a sustainable Yolo County. And we have presented a set of guidelines on how we can reopen safely, and how we can monitor our guests that are either dining outside or with a limited capacity inside, for us just to be able to survive, in order to be able to get some of our guests back, in order to cover some of our costs, which are very expensive to run a business if we are having to pay everything. And not only just the associated cost with the just that comes with the restaurant, of just being able to stay open. So some of the restaurants that we see just on Main Street here in Woodland, it's Morgan's on Main. Morgan's on Main has about 4 or 5 different spaces which they're currently not using, and they've decided to shut down versus reopening, because the cost to be open is more than what they are receiving on a daily for their daily sales. And it's difficult to go through a whole year and being able to sustain and have some. There's always been a little bit of money set aside, but when you're making 6% on sales, it's very difficult to maintain a business for over a year with a zero paycheck and receiving zero money. A lot of us are going on fumes, and what we risk here is the restaurant industry pretty much crumbling. Where if we look at the national statistics, I said this on our previous meeting, 70% of the restaurants in the United States are not going to survive the pandemic. So we need to find a comprehensive way on which we can open and be able to make our businesses survive, in order to bring some of our staff back, because a lot of the unemployment from the individuals that we've lost, and the individuals that we have to lay off, we personally were pretty much closed down for about 99 days back in March when this reopened. We now have more numbers, more data on how we can deal with the pandemic, and how we can specifically deal with COVID, with the virus. We are smart enough to be able to handle and help the county mitigate the impact of COVID with safe serving practices, by maintaining individuals 6 feet apart, making sure that we become our own police when it comes down. Well, I don't think I want to say that and speak for everyone regarding that, but at our particular restaurant, we can set certain standards and certain guidelines, and we can, on which we can have our guests dine on a safe dining environment. The food that we serve as well, it also has an impact on how we can help the community by serving those good, clean, fair ingredients, those ingredients that are going to help with your immunity and with your system. And if we see food as medicine, and that is our view when it comes down to food, we're going to start healing slowly those individuals that are consuming the products, by being open, being able to feed individuals that can have nutrient packed meals and very small bites, or individuals that are sheltering in place, we can come up with programs in which can also be able to feed those individuals that are sheltering in place, those individuals that have underlying health conditions. And we'll go to their homes, and we have developed different ways in order for individuals to order a home, in order to be able to work. And we've worked in a couple different programs with the county as well. And I think it has been great, where pretty much it has saved our business, and it has saved a lot of the businesses that we have in the area to be able to see the light of another day. However, we cannot continue to continue to run the way that we have with an outdoor dining only or limited restrictions, but we can safely, and our recommendation would be to put a verbiage together in which we can set a beta program to be able to test and see if this program works, but work together with the county in order to a safe reopening of YOLO, rather than everybody's doing whatever they want. So I think a very comprehensive plan would be to start that conversation right now, and we have proven, and we have set a set of guidelines and standards that we will abide by, and as on which we are already doing through the county. So there's been several programs that have been put together in order to serve safe, in order to have a green check, in order to have everyone certified at our restaurant. And we have developed those guidelines in order for us to be serving safe and being able to reopen slowly a little bit of that economy, and then move on to a different industry, that I think and hope will be able to do that. But if you let us feed some of those individuals, and you let us get some of the folks that have those underlying health conditions, and you let us feed them in a safe way, and we can prove that we can do it, I think that we can move forward and slowly starting to mitigate and starting to see those numbers become a little bit better with the restaurant network that we have here, not only at Woodland, but throughout Yolo County.
Juan, thanks for what you're doing and your outreach on this. I appreciate you coming to the chamber. We have a couple things we need to find out what we can do for you. But one thing that I noticed, and one thing that I would think is a dramatic problem for the restaurateurs, and I'm glad that Gary Sandy and Tom Stollard are here, is that when they close us off and shut everything down, that's a traumatic thing. And then all of a sudden yesterday they opened back up for some of the outdoor eating and that kind of thing. That's got to be a dramatic issue for you guys. And I mean, there's got to be some way of buffering that to let you know several days in advance, or just leave the restaurants alone, for God's sake, and let it get to a point where we've got an understanding like you have, that everybody has to have their stuff in place, make sure that they're doing it right. They close things down. Okay, well, that's going to close out everybody else, but it's not going to affect the restaurants, and or it's going to be very slight effect on the restaurants. So Juan or anybody else, what can the chamber do to help get your message across, and what message is that you want us to get across?
Jim Noel has his hand up. He's on
sorry.
Our
Tucker. Okay, I just wanted to
well,
thank you guys for having me here. So again, I'm from Taqueria Guadalajara. You're located at 6 Westport. I noticed last week when we had the last meeting, and I know April mentioned that if a customer complains, that's what the situation gets critical. How is there a way I thought maybe we could also work with the customers and say, hey, would you like us to service you here, or do you prefer to go? Give them the option. And then still, of course, we're still going to follow guidelines where we keep the inside, let's say, 25% to 50%. I'm a capacity of 45, so I'm a small location. So technically probably like 5 or 6 tables that we have allowed to have inside. But we communicate with the customers. Pretty much the customers kind of let them know how they feel. Because I know sometimes there's going to be a lot of folks are going to some feel okay and some feel like, I don't know. But, and of course, we're going to keep our place sanitized, clean every time for every movement we make, we have to be on top of things. So that they can see that we're also thinking about the safety of our customers, for everybody. I mean, it's not just, it's just open. Of course, we want to make sure we do things right. We want to make sure that restaurants don't end up being like, oh yeah, we're getting a high percentage of the COVID. So yeah, I mean, I really am looking forward to what Quanta has to offer, because I like myself, I like to see everybody open again and see everybody moving. I mean, it's not just one place; it's everybody. If we all don't, if we don't move, we're gonna struggle. Like Juan said, we're working with fumes right now, but if we find a solution and a way we can work with the health department and whoever's in the city, I mean, I think we could come up with a plan. It's just customers are the ones that I think need to have that. Maybe the customer has a little bit of saying in it, how they feel too. I don't know. I mean, that's just an idea. I mean, I don't know, you guys, whatever you guys think.
Thank you, Noel.
You're welcome.
And Juan, do you want to add to that, or?
Well, I think it's, a lot of the details, that's our ask is to be able to have, so we proposed a certain set of guidelines, and in order to abide by those certain guidelines, each individual restaurant, of course, has to like you mentioned, every restaurant is a little bit different, but every restaurant operates in a little bit of a different way. But we have a set of guidelines in which our mission is to keep our guests and our employees safe. And we understand that there is a pandemic, and we have a way in which we can keep our employees and our staff safe. So if you do not feel comfortable going out, then we have other ways in which we can actually have a delivery program to you. We have a platform now that we've, most of the restaurants, or I would like to say at least 95% to 99% of the restaurants that are on this, on the call or for the ask, have the necessary platforms to serve safe food, to have the touchless paying systems. Most of us have now adapted to a new way where we have to reinvent the way that we do business nowadays. And it's a new way during the COVID era. So we are now more than ever prepared to come forward and start really beating this virus. But let us do our part as well by serving those individuals the safe meals that they required, by offering the proper nutrition, but also being able to stay alive. In order to do that, we need to be here. We cannot have closed doors. And that's one of the things that we have said from the beginning. Anyone who is quite not making it, we want to go in there and jump in and cover that space, because we do not want any empty buildings in Woodland. We do not want any empty business anywhere. And we are not going to be that statistic that is going to be through national. 70% of the businesses are not going to make it. So we are together in order to find a comprehensive way that makes us not be that statistic. So, that's a conversation that we have with the county. That we would love to see something from our board of supervisors in which we test this program, say 5, 10, 6, 10 different restaurants. We have restaurants that can operate in West Sacramento, in Woodland, in Kepe, in Knights Landing, that can serve as models for that, if that's a conversation that we need to open, or by creating the specific set of guidelines and reviewing those guidelines, and then going back and forth and see how can we adjust this particular guidelines so the county feels comfortable, so the restaurants are also comfortable. But just remember that we have an opportunity to make individual healthy 3 times a day when we serve them meals, and even more if we work a comprehensive way in order for us to reopen. And again, we need to make sure that we are here in order to reopen our economy. And I think we are weaved into that fabric in order to regain economic to open the door, be that key for those individuals. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, individuals are always going to be looking for a meal, whether morning, evening, or night. And whether it is for social gathering, and whether it is that we leave the social gatherings for later, and we go and feed those individuals that are sheltering in place right now. And I think there's plenty in Yolo County that are either displaced, sheltering at home, individuals that are elder, that we can serve that particular need. And those are exactly the different programs that we're looking for, and asking for the county to come back with for us, especially as we have this new round, like Aaron Lata mentioned from Congressman Garamendi's office, this new round of stimulus programs that are coming in. So if the county can benefit from those particular that funding, and we can go out and serve communities, underserved communities, and communities that are either, the demographics are, Blacks, Hispanics, low income. And there's plenty of communities in Yolo County that we can actually serve, and we will prepare those meals, and we will acquiesce to the need of our county and to the need of our cities in order to be able to serve those individuals and make those individuals healthier.
Thanks, Juan. Jim Gillette, you had your hand up?
Yeah, hey, Juan, thanks a lot. I just want to clarify, and I think you just did. I was trying to understand what the ask was, and it sounds like certainly some funding with some stimulus money to be able to operate these programs, to do some outreach to the low income and those that are not mobile, correct?
That is correct. So that could be the beginning, because that's the current demographic that we have at risk right now, while we still have a restrictive tier. That would keep some of the restaurants, and I know if that particular funding is available, that we can distribute some of that funding and work in comprehensive ways or with comprehensive programs, in which we can meet a price target that makes sense for restaurants in order to be able to operate. And we're not asking for the stars here. We're asking for, in order just to be able to keep our restaurants open, and be able to pay some of our staff, and hopefully build this different programs in which we have worked already on, in order to bring some of our staff back and get those individuals off unemployment. They're ready to work. They're tired of being home for about a year or so. And we are, we are tired of working so hard for so little money. And that is a consensus from every single restaurant, because we've had to lay off 80 to 90% of our staff. Like our previous meeting, we saw, Buckhorn, going from 145 or 190 employees to 62 employees. And yes, granted that all of the catering business is now gone, that's millions of dollars that we are not ever going to see again. But that is also millions of dollars in taxes that we are not going to be able to see on our roads on Main Street. When we do have those potholes on Main Street, I cannot, with a serious face, come back to our county, to our city, and say, there's a hole in front of Savory Cafe, there's a hole in front of my Main Street, I need to get that filled. So there's no money for that. And that's what we do not want. We want to get back into reopening our economy, so we're able to have those services available. And while we understand that things are not normal, we are ready more than ever to work during a COVID world, understanding that we have to maintain our guests, our staff safe.
Supervisor Sandy, do you see anything that can be done? It sounds to me like it's a sweeping dictate from the state and or the county as to what's going to be open and what's not. Is there a way of certifying our restaurants that they're doing all the things that are necessary to keep them from having to close the next time we go into a red zone or whatever the color might be? Is there any latitude on that kind of an issue? You need to unmute there, Gary. Please.
Guys, this is remediation. I apologize. Not currently. As the county's been swept aside in all of this, we didn't receive notice of the cessation of the stay-at-home order till yesterday afternoon, which is at the same time all of us got it. And it's an example of how poorly things are being run. But we've sort of been shuttled aside, and everything is emanating from the state. For example, the stimulus funds that Juan referred to this year will not be coming to the county as a block grant, but will probably be coming directly from the state to restaurateurs, other people who apply for them. But that doesn't stop us from, in the interim, continuing to work and continuing to press for change. We all recognize that the restaurants in particular are being hurt and decimated by this pandemic and by the government regulation, and we want to do things. But that's why hearing these ideas, listening to the innovations that businesses are putting into place is so helpful, because we want to be prepared to move forward if we can, and we can only move forward if we keep pressing forward. So I'm certainly open to seeing what Juan has done. Juan has a history of being inventive and creative and bringing forth programs, and we can see what happens. But at the moment, the state is really filling the room.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Tom,
Gary.
do you have any comments on that?
I just had one other question as a follow-up, because it sounds like the stimulus money that Juan was talking about would be to add some volume to the restaurants so that they can have enough volume to actually stay open. And one of the other things I was thinking is there anything we can do as the chamber to help drive additional traffic that's not necessarily the stimulus money, but money from residents that are all looking for places to go and eat and things like that. And I know early on in the pandemic, there was a whole lot of effort being made to reach out to folks to do curbside pickup and to go sit outside or, things like that. Is there anything like that we can help out with as well?
Well,
Who's that directed to, Jim?
Yeah, as far as the chamber goes, yeah, we will definitely continue to try and do as much outreach as we can. Just keep the community aware that the restaurants need your support and that they aren't going to survive if we don't continue to spend money down there, no matter what the circumstances are. I think Tom Pollard is on mute, Jim. So.
Yeah, Tom, you want to chime in here?
Well, I'm mostly interested. I'm a landlord too, and I have restaurant clients, and I see what's happening to them, and I think it's just tragic. But again, as Gary said, the state has occupied the room. Amy Sisson, our public health doc, said, she's constrained by what the state offers. She can have a tighter regulation locally, but not a looser one. And we asked her, why can't people eat outside? And she said the theory was people were supposed to be staying at home, so they didn't want people going out. So that was why they shut down the restaurants again, even for outside dining. Well, I think people have to survive, and they have to be wise and do the things that make sense to them. I've heard that you can go to El Dorado County or Placer County and eat indoors in virtually any restaurant in those counties. So that's the way it is up there. We have to be concerned about the health of our people and the super spreading and all that. But I find, people exercise common sense because it's in their interest to do so. For example, the salons, all the salons are cutting. They just put paper in the windows all over town. And they're still bringing people in one at a time and masking up and things like that. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think we're on our own on this. And we have to express wisdom, and we should. I don't think the super spreading is occurring in the situations we're talking about. I think it's happening in family gatherings and parties and other things of that sort. But that's my own opinion. My problem is, I want to be a responsible public servant and provide leadership to the community, but the state's been all over the place on this. Imagine going from purple plus to purple. Wow, what a big deal that is. But it's a big deal if you're one. It's a big deal if you're null and you can't serve people outside. So I sort of feel like, and we're not aggressively enforcing. The real problem for us is individual citizens who are radical about this do complain, and we're compelled to do something if they complain. So that makes me say to Juan, to Noel, to all our restaurateurs, do your best to make peace with people however you can, but do what you need to do to survive. I don't have any other wisdom.
Thank you, Tom. When we were opened up to be able to go out and do takeout and things like that, that seemed to work really well. It worked great for me because I live downtown, but for everybody else, there was a lot of people going out and getting food, and I thought that was really good. And it wasn't, we weren't compromising anybody. You just stayed away and you grabbed your bag and thank you very much and we're leaving. So, it seems like it works. And when you go to other communities and you see other communities, I drove through Placerville on Saturday, and I went through the downtown, and they have restaurants with enclosed areas outside the restaurant, like the parklets that we have here, but they're absolutely totally enclosed with plastic. And it's like, what's the difference of being indoors or being inside a plastic shell for, 10 tables or something? I don't see a difference, but everybody's trying to do something.
the New York Times had an article calling them COVID cabanas.
Cabanas. Yeah, I've heard that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And that's exactly what we, I didn't mean to just jump in, but that's exactly what I think what we're trying to avoid here by creating this comprehensive set of guidelines that we have to abide by, or we are policing ourselves in our own individual restaurants based on the operation that each one of us has. So, but I think that you know what, utilizing, we are witty individuals. We are witty individuals if we're able to, if we're still here after a year with no revenue, no paycheck, we are able to do something right. And we will help each other to be able to survive this pandemic. And that is exactly what we want. So if the restaurants have been closed, and the question that I continue to get from a lot of our restaurants is, if the restaurants are 100% closed, we were 100% closed back in March, and the numbers kept on going up. Yes, it was in the beginning of the pandemic. But if we have shut down our operations and the restaurants have shut down their operations and the numbers continue to be red, what does that tell us? That it is happening somewhere else. But one of the examples that I gave the other day is, as I walk downtown, and I try to touch base with some of our neighbors as we walk downtown and just look at what's happening. What does downtown Woodland, what does it feel like? And it's a big sigh when we check in with a lot of our restaurant family and our industry partners. But it also, what we are also able to observe is that a lot of individuals who are getting their food to go and are wanting to support some of the meals or some of the restaurants are coming and eating downtown or sitting in a bench. And just the evening before, I see a less unfortunate individual laying down or sleeping on that bench. See, so what we can do is we can provide a space in which we can sanitize the spaces in which our individuals are eating and help to mitigate and stop the spread of the virus. So if that is a major concern, well, let us help clean the spaces, because we have everything in place. We have all PPEs that we have been able to do. And believe me, all of that, it's not cheap. So that's another ask, right? If we are able to get this in bulk through the county at a better affordable prices, that'd be great for us, because gloves that we have to change just about every 3 minutes or so, depends on our task of each employee, have gone from anywhere from $17, from $5 to $15 to $17 per box, which now,
Juan,
before we used to pay on, yes.
Juan, thank you. We got to move along. I'm going to call on Katie Curran and then Peter Hahn, and then we're going to have to try and wrap this up because I don't want to keep people too long. But Katie, you had a question? Comment?
I did. I actually wanted to make a comment. Number one, wanted to just thank Juan for presenting to this group, and everything you said is so important. And I've kind of paid attention to the participants on this call and why everybody is important as a part of this community. I noticed that there are definitely some decision makers and policy leaders on this call. And I want to ensure you guys really heard Juan when he said that food is medicine, and it is medicine. I want to offer a different perspective that he didn't necessarily touch on. And that is how our healthcare system, our local healthcare system, has relied on our local restaurants to help us get through this pandemic as well. Again, food is medicine for the body and for the spirit. When surges have hit the hospital, we can't always predict that. We need to keep our employees here and working to care for the most vulnerable and the people as they're sick and in the hospital. We've been able to call on our restaurants to deliver food, for us to come pick up food, to keep our employees working, healthy, and also to help with how they're emotionally feeling, because, comfort food does help. And so I just want to offer that different perspective as we have these policy makers and decision makers on the call, that we need these restaurants open. And if there's any way to think outside the box, please do that, because yes, downtown is important. Keeping businesses is open as well, but this is critical infrastructure for our healthcare workers. And so, one, I hear you with the box of gloves. We're faced with that same thing. And if there is any way that the county, the city can help, that's something simple. But there's a lot of things we can do to work together to keep these restaurants open. We need them open from a healthcare perspective as well.
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Katie.
Peter, you had a question or a comment?
Yeah, it's been an interesting discussion. The one piece that hasn't been answered at all is the question that was asked earlier, is how can the chamber help with the situation? And that's really the key to it, not just the restaurants, but all the small businesses in Woodland. And it's interesting, you know, there are 15, 18 members of the board of the chamber, and we can all sit around and hash out the question ourselves. But we're really an organization. The chamber is a member organization, and we need suggestions from the membership. It's great to know that, and I appreciate Juan and Noah's comments about safety and what they're doing and all the costs. But the issue is, so we know that. Now, what suggestions do you all have that would help the chamber promote?
Get
No, Juan?
takeout once a week, every week for dinner.
Yeah, there you go.
Wednesday night's our night.
That's what we do.
So what I'm thinking is that we put together some kind of a position paper and send it off to our elected officials above the county, you know, so our state legislators, and just let them know how much of an impact these stay-at-home orders and these other, you know, restrictive color coding is impacting our businesses. We need to let them know that this is serious business, and we need you guys to open this thing up so we can do some business in these restaurants. It
needs to be more surgical.
Yeah, we need to go after the people that can make the decisions, and that's unfortunately above the county level. So I would propose that we put a letter together, Jim, and let's get that off and see if we can get other chambers in the county to support us. And maybe we can make enough of a noise that they will listen to what we're saying.
And I think we want to tap the state chamber too, and make sure that they're
as well. I mean, go anywhere in the area, you know, just let them know that we gotta get something done. This has been going on too long, and you know, it's unfair because, as people were saying, they drive over to El Dorado County and they don't even have any of these issues to deal with. So let's get a level playing field at least.
Folks, we've gone over time. Thank you, Mark, for your comments. And Jim and I will get together with chamber staff. We'll probably pull in a few other folks that were here. If you'd like to meet up with us, that would be great. But we'll try and put something together. We'll get it out to you folks. Christy and Cynthia, I'm sure you've got names down so we can distribute what we do here. And we'll move forward from here, hopefully as quickly as possible. By the end of the week, hopefully we'll have something. So thank you again. Thank you, our elected officials, Gary and Tom, for being here as well. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And,
thank you for the opportunity to listen.
Yeah,
thank you,
everybody. We'll work on this quickly.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care, everyone. Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good